Welcome everyone to what we have as Did You Know with Peter Legg. I'll be producing these new episodes of Did You Know to provide statistical analysis as well as news on all the current events relating to politics. I was inspired to do this episode by some of my good friends, Aidan, James Fair, and also Ra. So I'd like to thank those guys, as they were probably wanted me to share the statistical analysis I share with them with the people around me. So let me get into the show. Also, just before I start, I'd like to apologise to people who I said that I'd do the broadcast for episode on Friday. Sadly, that has unable to be the case due to commitments. However, I am able to do it this Saturday, as I am doing right now. Anyway, so this episode will be related to look at alcohol. However, before we look at that, let's look at the current political issues in today's news. Now, the first one was relating to Ted Baillieu. Recently, this week, we have seen that Ted Baillieu, the previous Victorian Premier, resigned. This has been amidst corruption allegations that went throughout his government. The week follows bad opinion polls about where Labor has been holding a lead. This is despite the Labor brand at the moment being very tarnished. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the only state where Labor is actually winning state-wise in terms of opinion polls. What it showed was that on a two-party preferred basis, Labor were winning 53% to 47%, with this occurring constantly. It also showed continual dissatisfaction with Baillieu. As a result, Baillieu resigned amidst all these terrible allegations and also opinion polls, and now Denis Napthine is the new Premier. So, be ready everyone to say good day to Denis if you are Victorian. Anyway, the other key news event relating to politics was regarding Western Sydney. What we've seen is that both leaders of the two major political parties, Gillard and Tony Abbott, have jumped over to Western Sydney as they see as a key battleground. At the moment, what we have in Western Sydney, which used to be a traditional Labor heartland, is that voters are disillusioned and disenfranchised with the current Labor government. So, however, interestingly, while all this focus has been put on Western Sydney and Gillard's trying to get back votes, what we see is that all Labor generally needs to do, so the polls tell us, is actually change to Kevin Rudd. For instance, Labor, under Rudd, opinion polls show that Labor would do a massively 12% better in both Chifley and Werriwa, which are meant to be safe Labor electorates, although would, under current polls, show that next election they're going to fold to Gillard, and also 8% better in Blaxland and 9% better in McMahon. This is stark results. This shows the importance of Rudd. As one analyst said, or I'm pretty sure Malcolm Turnbull actually, he said that people actually, the Labor Party, prefer losing the next election than having Kevin Rudd as leader. So, yeah, although it's a very tight issue, and the other issue relating to Western Sydney that has come about is related to the 457 visas. Now, what 457 visas are they visas which allow skilled migrants to come into in the country, which is Australia, to work. Now, what happens here is that the people which are immigrants are able to come over here and fill in our skills shortage. However, there has been some concern over the scheme, as Brendan O'Connor the immigration minister, has vented. when the scheme was first set up, 30,000 immigrants first came under John Howard, and then this rose dramatically to around 100,000, just over 100,000, I'm pretty sure. Then, once the financial crisis came, it then dropped again before Gillard. As Gillard came in, the 457 visas increased. Now, the worrying concern here is that immigrants are taking jobs. Now, while Liberal has branded this as racism by having this focus of getting rid of 457 visas, Labor has said that we want to support Australian jobs first. Well, Liberal would disagree with this, as they, in terms of the 457 visas, because they believe this is already the case. However, we are yet to see what both parties can offer in the political debate. However, in response to this, Liberal also somewhat had their own racist view, although not on 457 visas necessarily, although this time on, you know what, asylum seekers. So what Liberal are proposing is that, or specifically Tony Abbott and Scott Morrison, is that we'll have behavioural protocols for asylum seekers, so they are acting in the proper manner. However, now you'd think that sounds all very well, although is there really a need for it? As Christine Milne pointed out on Q&A, more politicians have been charged with offences than asylum seekers over the last 3 years. So, I wonder whether these asylum seekers really are a danger to the community. However, nevertheless, as Rob Oakeshott says, that both major parties are actually playing to racist sentiments in the community, and we're seeing that Labor with the 457 visas and Liberal with the behavioural protocols in society, although you may disagree on that. However, the final main political issue of the week has been the Western Australian election. Now, what we've seen in the Western Australian election is that it looks like Colin Barnett, the Liberal leader, is going to retain being Premier, and they're actually going to get a greater swing towards the coalition. In fact, one poll showed that the Liberals over there would win in a landslide. However, we are yet to see, and Colin Barnett is also pointing out that he's not so sure about that. Analysts have said that Mark McGowan, the Labor leader, has done a good job, although a lot of the problem has been that federal Labor has a tarnished brand, meaning that state Labor has been unable to get much of its message across and persuade voters, because federal Labor, in the voters' opinion in Western Australia, are doing a terrible job. So therefore they're not voting for state Labor because they think Labor's the same as Labor, although we're yet to see the results of the election. However, if we just check for live results at the moment, we'll be able to see what they are. Now, at the moment, what we have is a 10.5% swing from the previous election to Liberal. That is a massive swing. That is actually calling for a landslide. A minus 3.6% swing against Labor, so a 0.8% swing towards the Nationals, 2.6% swing against the Greens, and a 5.1% swing against others. What that shows us is that we've got a massive landslide going towards the Elwyn Liberals and the National Party. In fact, the Liberals and the National Party at this stage look like they've gained 17 seats, a definite 17 seats, and Labor with a definite 5 seats. Now, at the moment, 5.6% of the vote is counted, and that gives us a good analysis on how we can get those results. Now, on to the rest of the show, which is firstly about alcoholism, before I talk about my own debating. Now, alcohol is a very large issue in Australia and is in some ways a part of our culture. However, there are certainly negative effects of alcohol. In fact, statistics show that alcohol has been causally linked to more than 60 different medical conditions. In Australia, alcohol was linked to 3,430 deaths per year and 85,438 disability-adjusted life years. So what that means is that that many years in total have been taken off people's lives because of disabilities or impediments due to alcohol. So it certainly does have its negative effects when not put in moderation. In fact, alcohol is apparently, so I've heard, I'm pretty sure it's from the Australian Bureau of Statistics where I heard this, that 58% of hospital emergency admissions are alcohol related. As well as that, alcohol affects some of the main organs such as the brain, the heart, the liver, the pancreas and the stomach. Now I'll just list some of the effects on one of those, which is the pancreas. The pancreas is shown to have, for alcohol effects, is shown that too much alcohol will cause abdominal pain, which may radiate up the back, nausea and vomiting, fever, rapid heart rate, and diarrhea. Now those are just some. Actually, I think I'm wrong about that affecting being the cause of the pancreas. But nevertheless, those 5 effects have been severely causing hurting the body because of too much alcohol. So it is always important to drink in moderation. It is also a contentious issue, and one which is fiercely debated between the alcohol industry, politicians, alcohol help groups such as, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous. So quite an interesting issue, and also for all those children out there who may be wondering why they're not smart, one effect possibly, which is minorly affects it, whether you're smart or not in terms of IQ, is whether your mother had drank alcohol during the first few weeks of her pregnancy. Interestingly, if she drinks even a moderate consumption of alcohol during the first few weeks of her pregnancy, that actually causes quite a few significant reduction in IQ, in quite a few IQ points, which is quite surprising because IQ is meant to be a largely genetic and all that. So, interesting result there. Must you agree? Anyway, now on to debating. Now at the moment I am in the EC team for debating, which is looking quite exciting, and I'm very looking forward to the debating year ahead. Anyway, at the moment, so the news goes that we've got a 5-round competition, which means we'll be playing against 5 other schools, and then the ladder will go up and we'll see whether we've made the semi-finals and then later on the grand finals. Anyway, so here are the fixtures for each of the EC teams. Sadly, at the moment we haven't decided the teams as such, although we are looking at 2 teams of 5, which is looking quite good, and we're looking at a very promising year of debating. So for Elizabeth College 1, they'll most likely be up against Hobart College, Friends, Collegiate 2, Guildford Young College and Farn School, all throughout the year in their 5 fixtures. Meanwhile, Elizabeth College 2 will be against Guildford Young College, Farn, Collegiate, Hutchins 2 and Hutchins 1. So another exciting year of debating for them. Now, at the moment, the first round will be an impromptu, which means you've got 1 hour to prepare, only 1 hour to prepare where you turn up, and the topic area is on protests. So I'm certainly looking forward to that, and I hope all you guys out there, all you debaters, will certainly, especially from EC, will be doing a bit of research on that possibly, because it is certainly a very interesting issue. Anyway, that is all I have time for, or all I have actually, for this first new episode of Peter Leg's Did You Know? Now, as for next episode, I will be looking at the effects of total institutions on social identities, the science behind climate change, where we actually look at how more CO2 emissions are emitted, and all the interesting things related to that, where we look at the hard science and how it is actually caused. And as well as that, most importantly, we'll be looking at the recent news and politics. So be sure to stay tuned with Peter Leg's Did You Know?